All right, so for this particular week, I'm going to do twofold. One of which is I'm going to walk you through the syllabus because you're going to have a quiz at the end of this with the syllabus. Then I'm also going to walk you through some of the things that you've already learned in your English 2 or 3. Even if you took an English 11, actually, that would work too. Anyway, the whole point is we're going to be talking about some research too. The reason why is, I will talk about this in just a second, a lot of our assignments are going to require research. It's not going to be hard. It's going to be pretty easy. It's just a matter of doing the thing. So first and foremost, this class will have a lot of reading. Weird how that's the case when it is a literature class. So don't be too surprised if I'm like kind of throwing some readings at you. I will talk about what that'll look like in just a second, but I just want to give you that little bit of heads up. With this class also, I don't accept AI work. I want your work. I don't want AI. I've been doing this a very long time, like way long, and I've known before AI and I know AI now. So, if the machines don't catch it, I pretty much always do. So don't let that be your crutch. Okay, you have the capabilities. I give you everything you need. You got this far. You don't need AI for this particular class. I would, though, there are some AI aspects like Grammarly and spell check. Please use spell check. Please use Grammarly. That is fine. But don't have a machine write your whole entire essay. That being the case, with this class, I highly suggest not writing on your phone when you go to turn things in. I hate little I's. If you're going to talk about yourself like I am and you use the little I, that drives me bonkers. And a lot of times that happens when you're using your phone. So I am looking for certain levels of grammar only because when we write grammatically correct, we communicate better and there's less misunderstanding. That's kind of the goal here. I want to be able to read your work and recognize that you put effort into it. You weren't lazy. You actually did the work. So be mindful if we're using your phone. Check for spelling. I just don't use your phone. I know sometimes you kind of have to things happen. I would just suggest if you're going to be doing this class to do your best to write wholly as we move forward. You'll see. That being the case with this class also, and when it comes to grading, I have rubrics for everything. You always are going to know how I'm grading because you'll see the rubric. Actually, if you scroll to the bottom of the assignment, it always has the rubric. Pay attention to that because you're going to see that's where I'm giving the points. So if you're just kind of mindlessly writing but not paying attention to the question and not answering what I'm looking for, you're going to notice that unfortunately I have to dock the points because you're not giving me what I need for you to show me that you understand the material. Okay? So that's the whole thing. As an instructor, my goal here is I have key things I need you to learn. We call those goals, right? Like our learning objectives. You will see that in the liquid syllabus that I sent out. But these goals and these objectives are what I need from you to go, oh, student totally has a complete understanding of these particular points, and that's why they pass the class, okay? Don't panic if in your first few assignments, if you get docked or something, don't panic because one, we do so much work in this class. It's not a huge issue. You can still pass the class. Again, C's get degrees. I mean, we're fine with that. The point I'm trying to make here is I want you to be comfortable in getting feedback that's going to guide you so that you can go, oh, this is what I need to do for next time. Super, I get it. I'm one of those students who I didn't feel like I was very good in school. And so anytime I got like any grade other than like the grade I anticipated, I would lose it. I would absolutely lose my mind. So I'm kind of talking to you as I was talking to myself as a student. So don't panic if your first, assignment is like lower than you anticipated. If you're hitting all the marks and reading all the parts of the rubric and answering all the questions I need, you will be fine. But the whole point of my feedback is to guide you. So always check your feedback. You'll see it when you go into your grades. You're going to see the assignment and you'll see what looks like a little comment box. And in that little comment box, click that. It'll give you the feedback. You're always pretty much going to get something from me. If you just get a little bit, that sometimes means you hit all the notes. Like you did everything I needed. I don't really have a lot of feedback to give. So don't panic if you don't get a lot back. Or if you do get a lot back, again, don't panic then either. Just read what I wrote. And then if you have to fix something, there you go. Oftentimes my feedback will be asking questions about the work that you turned in because I'm trying to figure out what was your goal behind it. If you leave feedback or comments under my feedback, I don't often see that. I very rarely go back to assignment once I've graded it, and I don't always get the information. Like if you make a comment, I don't always get underneath where the comment is that you get put in there. So anyway, if you have questions, always message me through Canvas. Always interact with me in Canvas. That's wonderful. I love it. I'm going to go through a couple more things in the syllabus. As a heads up, it's not that I want to say I accept late work, but sometimes if an assignment is still open and you can turn it in, you can do that. Absolutely. But I give you the warning. I give you the warning that if the assignment's not already shut off and you can turn it in, Canvas docks 5% every day. 5%. I give you that warning because it'll knock you in the teeth. The later it is, especially if it's a bigger points, it just keeps hammering you. So I would avoid late work if I were you. I don't want to say no to late work because I know life absolutely happens. One thing to make sure is when you turn something in, make sure it's turned in. If you're on your laptop and you turn something in and you close it, don't do that. Make sure it's turned in before you close or close anything. In my experience, I've taken a few classes at Butte myself, and there were times where I thought it uploaded and it didn't. And I was either using my phone or my laptop, closed it, turned it off, and it didn't pop up. And then later I'm looking at my assignment. I'm like, why did I get a 0? And it's like, you didn't turn it in. I'm like, yes, I did. So you got to take responsibility on that end. I can only grade what I get. If I don't get it, I can't give you a grade. Okay. So just think about that as you move forward. I don't want you to feel like you're being surprised in any way when it comes to assignments and grading. So, all right. As I've blabbed about the syllabus is actually, if you go, always hit home. Home's where you want to go. Always go home. Go to your home. When you hit your home, you're going to see all my little announcements. Please read the announcements. I don't do it just for fun. I do it because I want you to know that I got something to tell you. Always check announcements. Once you do that, you're going to scroll down. You're going to see week 1, week 2. Oftentimes, it might say module 1, module 2. It's always going to go in order. I prefer the weeks. That's just how I work, especially with the way Butte's set up. So you're going to see weeks. Underneath where it says week 1, start here, that's where you're going to find the syllabus. That's pretty much where I always try and keep everything so you see it right off the bat. You're going to have your calendar there, you're going to have your syllabus, and you're going to have resources. Please click the resources. I highly suggest, if you feel like you are not a strong writer, which it's all about practice. The more you write, the better you get. So if you're like, I'm a terrible writer, well, write more, you'll be better. That's really, reading actually is the other part. So the reason why I give a lot of reading is reading helps you write better. Ta-da! So that being the case, when I talk about resources, if you need help with your writing, CAS, it is the Center for Academic Success. They've got online tutoring. There's literally somebody sitting there twiddling their thumb waiting for you to reach out. So please reach out to them. I can only give so much on my end. If you really want that good, like one-on-one, someone sitting there and really walking you through each tiny little step, that's what we need to do if you need that kind of help. For me, I can give you some answers and guide you, but I would highly suggest using the tutors there. Mostly because literally they are just sitting there waiting for you. So please, 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 please. They get very excited about that. So again, syllabus is under the start here, under the introduction. Please take a look through that. Read through everything to make sure you know exactly what it's going to look like for this class. One of the things to make sure is, the biggest thing is, don't plagiarize. We'll talk about that. I'm going to give you a little bit of that when we talk about the research. You've been already doing research. You pretty much know how to do it. If you've been in any of my classes before, you know I'm like a very big stickler when it comes to either the type of research or how you're citing your sources. So I'll get to that in a second when we get into week 1. I'm very particular about the way sources are cited. Again, Googled or AI'd answers, things that are obviously not written by you, by your hand, I can't take. I can't take. And if you go to the syllabus and you scroll pretty much to the bottom down to like page 4, you're going to see how AI and plagiarism is worded within the class and at Butte College. They just put out a big thing. It's the AP 5521. Please take a look at that if you have more questions on what that looks like. I do have the right to not accept work that has been plagiarized. So don't waste your time. And also, I notice all the time in class, it hallucinates, and then I have to give you 0. And I know how it hallucinates because I've been doing this a long time. And it always does the same thing. You're probably not going to know it, but I'm going to see it. So anyway, so just keep in mind, read the work, do it. It'll be absolutely worth your time, especially if you're in a literature class, man. It's just, I love it. I get so excited. What else? A lot of the works we're going to be talking about diversity, be mindful of being open-minded about the works that we're using. When it comes to literature, the main goal is that we recognize the voices, the collective voice of all, and what that means for being a human and sharing personal experiences. So again, I'm sure you hear all the same theme throughout all my classes is utilizing literature, reading and writing to share and connect with other humans. That's what we do. Okay. For this class, we're going to have about 5 pretty big assignments. Analytical reviews. We're going to have about 4. I say about 4. We will have 4 analytical reviews. It's going to be on poetry, drama, short story, the novel, and film. Actually, maybe that's 5. Oh, no, it's 4 because the novel is going to be your final paper. I was right. Okay. Anyway, that being the case, the analytical reviews don't come until like week 4. That's when we really are going to be using the research. We're going to use all the work that we've been using in class, and everything we've used in the first 3 weeks, we're going to take that and we're going to put it towards poetry and short stories and film and drama. Okay. So, I mean, everything we use, it's all going to be used throughout the class. Like everything we learn, we will use. Okay. When it comes to research, I'll talk a little bit more about this as we move forward, but I highly suggest for week 1, if you're not really understanding what research looks like, what the MLA format looks like, go into the lecture and take a look at all the readings. I'll get to that in a second, but I just want you to know, I'm going to be expecting you to know how to use MLA format. I have given you everything you could possibly need on how to do that. I would not use generator machines like the generators. They're old in the sense that I'm looking for the 8th edition of, actually I lied, the 9th edition of the MLA format. And with that, unfortunately, the citation machines are incorrect because they're so out of date. You know, they include things like access date. I don't want access date. So anyway, be mindful of that. Always use MLA format from the 9th edition of MLA format. Vocabulary, you're going to see every week. I will have a list of that week's vocabulary. I always expect you to use at least some of the vocabulary within the responses, and I need them bolded. Use the vocabulary and bold it. You're going to see when you look at the rubric, I'm always going to ask for that. Yes, you will lose points if you don't bold it. Why do I ask that? Because I want you to mindfully show me your intention with using the terms. Okay, so I want you to show me that you're like, oh, look at this term, I know how to use it, and kind of show off your talents for me. When you use a vocabulary, bold it. Why am I repeating that? Because I hate when I have to try and scour your paper and then I can't tell, is that what they meant to do? I don't know. So I can't give you credit if you don't do the thing. All right. Kind of like when you're playing a video game. If you don't get the coins, how do you get the points? Oh my God, I'm so old, right? Coins. What is this, Mario Brothers? Anyway, also one of our bigger assignments is going to be an outline. You're also going to show me your topic for your final paper. We're just going to write about the novel, which is Wild Meat and the Bully Burgers. Once you tell me the question you want to talk about for the novel, I'll ask for an outline. And the whole point of the outline is for you to show me what your ideas are going to be. Okay? And then we have our final paper. It is like the end-all be-all of the whole entire class. It's pretty much taking everything you learn and applying it to the book that we are reading in class. Start reading the novel now. All right. And again, I'm telling you, I know what the answers are going to be if you try and use the chat GPT for this, and they're going to be wrong because, again, it hallucinates and it doesn't understand who the characters are. So just be mindful that I want you to read the book. Don't lean on something else that's going to tell you what the book is about. It won't work. Trust me. I've tried it. I tried it myself. And I was like, oh my God, I would have failed this class if I tried that. So anyway, be mindful of that. Grading, again, based on rubrics, based on directions. Please read them. Please follow them. And then you got it. You're passing. When I talk about formatting, I want it to be MLA format. It needs to be, double spaced. I try and include as much as I can on what MLA format looks like. You can also go to Purdue Owl, and take a look at that. Again, I want the most recent version of the MLA format. I believe it is the 9th edition. And you will include works cited pages, especially in your analytical reviews. Okay? Yeah. I know a lot of that part, you're like, oh, I'm not here for like a research class. I'm here for literature. I know, and forgive that voice. That sounded like a jerk voice. Sorry, but I'm just letting you know that I recognize that your urge might be like, I don't want to research. The whole point behind this is, I don't want you to read the work and talk out of your ass. Excuse my language. Okay, when you read the work, I want you to back up what you're saying with something that says, yes, what I'm saying is accurate because this is the research I actually have in regards to this particular writing or author. Okay? Okay. All right. That being the case, that's pretty much the syllabus. You can take a look there. I do have questions that are pretty simple. Again, a lot of reading in this class. Late work, 5% each day. You saw the different assignments that we have. We have the 4 analytical reviews. We've got the final paper. I want MLA format. Okay, pretty much all the answers. If you're doing the readings and if you're going through the things I ask you to go to, the quizzes are fine. They're not that hard. And by hard, I mean sometimes you just have to look at the material, and there it is. Okay, so now that we've covered the syllabus really quick, I want to talk about how we are going to be using research and Butte College's data library. Okay, I don't want Google, right? What happens is students will kind of Google an answer and they pull up the first thing, and unfortunately it's not always a reputable site. Or sometimes the little AI thing will pop up, and again, even that hallucinates because what it's doing is gathering a whole bunch of information and kind of trying to summarize it, but what it's always pulling from isn't always correct. So it's important that you really make sure that you're paying attention to where you're getting your information. All right, everything we're going to cover for this particular lecture, you've pretty much already done before, and if you've been in my class, you're like, you literally said, we just did this in class. I'm like, I know, it's easy, right? So as you go down, when you go into your, you go to the home page, and then you go down, you'll see week 1, and you'll see start here, and then you're going to see the week 1 lecture. Go into that, because that is what I use to talk to you. I pretty much pull everything from that. I'll make a comment, and it's going to be pointing to a link that's in the lecture. Okay. For this one, I might throw in a couple of the videos because they're short, so it also kind of forces you to watch them. But the ones I'm not going to throw in here, I'm not going to put in, what is it? You know what? Maybe I might. Maybe I might. You know what? I think I will put them in there, and I hate to force you to do it, but I'm going to do it. Because my fear is if I don't say, hey, watch these videos, or even if I do, you might not get to them. And then when you get to the part where we use it, you might be a little confused. Okay. All right. So first and foremost, when we talk about brainstorming, I give you an entire list. I give you a reading. It's about 10 minutes. When I put a time, don't panic. If you're like me, it would probably take me more like 20 minutes, right? But because I read it before, I kind of scan a little bit. But don't panic if you see a reading time. If you're slow reading like I am, add a few more minutes. It's just a general rough idea of what it might take, so that you kind of, manage your time. School's all about time management. My classes are all about time management. Okay. So brainstorming, there's all kinds of different ways in which you can do that. We've got the free writing where you just write as you write. By the way, I'm going to take a step back and make a note. There's brainstorming, there's outlining, then there's the research, and then there's the rough draft. There's research again, then there's the final paper after you do some revision. When we talk about free writing, the free writing will not be your final paper. All the free writing is doing is getting your juices going. It's just like kind of like breaking that barrier loose because like, I don't know what I'm supposed to write. So then you just start free writing. Just write what's in your mind, even if you just kind of like, I hate this class, I hate this stuff. Okay, I got to write this. And then you start talking about the topic, and then you kind of get your juices flowing on the questions you want to ask or answer. That's free writing, okay? If you go to that brainstorm link, it's actually going to show you the different types of techniques, and it's going to give you more examples. Please take a look at that. I'm just giving you a little bit of snippets on it. You can also break these down into levels. You could do the general topic, like the relationship between one thing or another. You could do maybe the subtopics of the main topic. Again, if you've been in my classes, you know what I'm talking about. You got your main topic, subtopic, and then little pieces underneath. So you can break it into levels if that helps you, if free writing isn't like if you like bullet points more so than a full free write. That falls also in line with the next point of, again, you can make lists, you can do bullets. If you're kind of succinct and you just need to get to the point, what is it you're trying to write? Do that. Okay. Again, when we're talking about brainstorming, we're just trying to figure out how we're going to write our paper, what ideas we want to talk about, and that's all we're doing. We're not putting in any kind of order just yet. If it helps, you can, but just kind of get the word out. Don't burden yourself with the need to be perfect right away, and it has to be a certain thing. If you're like me, I become like paralyzed with my brain because I'm like, oh, wait, what's the order? Don't worry about order. Just get the thoughts down. That's all you have to do. Okay. The order comes when you put it in your outline, okay? One thing I like to do, and I'll talk about this later, is sometimes like if I put all the ideas in bullet points, I will like either print it and then I'll cut it into slits of paper, and then I'll put the slits of paper on the table, and I'll just move them around for the order. Like I have to touch things. Like sometimes the computer is fantastic if I type really quick, but I got to print it or get it or write it down, and I have to have the little slits of paper. I do that with classes all the time. I don't have it here, but I literally could show you. When I set up my classes, I print up the assignments, or I write the assignments down, and I cut them all up, and I move them around on a calendar so I can see how I want them, because I need to touch it, if that makes sense. Okay, anyway, another way of doing some, what do you call it? Brainstorming would be perspectives. You could describe it, trace it, map it. These are different ways in which you can find maybe ways in which ideas will work together. Like say you have a whole bunch of ideas and you don't know like how in poetry, say you've got a particular author that you're writing about and you don't know how the historical and cultural context works together. And so you write down a whole bunch of different historical and cultural contexts you think pertain to the poem. And what you could do is use these different places, describe what it is. Trace it. How do they connect? Map it out, right? In order for them to work together. So an example, let's see here. So if you're going to describe it, you would describe it in detail. What is the topic that you want to talk about? What are components of the topic? What's, interesting or distinguishing features that are about it, right? So this is your describe it. You want to describe, this is your brainstorm part. Are there puzzles within it that you feel like you need to untangle? What distinguishes your subject from those that are similar to it? Or how might it be unlike others? Okay, so that's your description. That's the first, one perspective. Or you can trace it, what's the history of the subject? How has it changed over time? Like what's the history of the poem or poetry, whatever it is you're working on, whatever thesis topic you're working on. Why has it changed over time? What are significant events that have influenced this topic? Again, when we start talking about post-colonialism, type of dialogue. What was the history of it? What changed? How are we here now? Not just the abolishment of slavery, but there's more that happens beyond that. What does that look like? You tell me. All right, or maybe mapping it out. What is related to your particular topic, your subject, whether it's poetry or a type of poetry. What was influenced, or how does it influence? Explain how that's the case. What fields draw on the study for your subject? I actually utilize Mary Shelley's Frankenstein as used for science, and there's a link when we get there for the short stories, and how might that might be one of the parts in which you're trying to map it. How do those have a connection? Anyway, I know that's a lot. Whatever, we'll go beyond that. So cubing, again, take a look at this. It's very similar. Like, you're going to see a lot of these that are very similar, but they get either more expansive in how you would do it. So like cubing is very similar. You want to describe it, you want to compare it, you want to associate it, you want to analyze it, apply it, and then argue for or against it. Okay. What you could do, if you're like me, you could do like a 1 through 6, and for each one you just write a whole bunch and then go, oh, okay, and maybe pull out pieces. You can do the simile. This particular poetry was, are, like something else, right? This poem is, similar, like, it was, or it was like, or whatever, words. Okay, it is like, and then you can compare that poetry to something, okay? You can do the clustering and mapping. I am going to show you those videos in a second. And then you can do journalistic questions if that helps you. Who, what, where, when, why. I always loved that. When I used to write for Upgraded Living magazine, I would literally, that's how I would write it, because you want to be incredibly thorough. And you pretty much, when you answer those questions, you do answer a lot of all the other things. So oftentimes you can think outside of the box. This one's kind of tough, because to think outside of the box, I'd have to have something really specific to help you with. I guess if we're going to think about poetry, we could think about William Carlos's Williams, The Red Wheelbarrow, and if we're thinking outside of the box, we can try and find a way in which it's not just the colors and the language and not just the historical context, but maybe there's more to it. I don't know. I'd have to sit and think about that one. That's a tough one. But thinking outside of the box is a little bit heavy. Let's see what they say here. Say we're talking about culture in English class. In your communications or cultural studies, you could incorporate the definition of culture that is frequently used in biological sciences. And so remember that like when we talk about petri dishes, you got the little petri dish and you got something growing in it. How might you use those dishes, which are used for culturing substances within it, for like bacterial growth? How can we use that analysis to help you write your paper if you think about culture? Like if we were to think about William Carlos's Williams poem, The Red Wheelbarrow, and we think about the cultural impact of that, how might we, again, this is thinking outside the box, utilize the word culture as something that grows within, right? And the first line, which is so much depends upon, right? What's the growth? What is the development in that culture that also pertains to the culture of that poem? I know, that's it. There's a couple things in this class that you don't have to go to that level. I'm offering it up to you. Okay. Anyway, you can use charts, you can use shapes. Sometimes I like shapes, like helps me, like all the triangles mean vocabulary assignments, or all the colors of pink mean vocabulary assignments, right? Or all the blue triangles, right? So for me, that's how I think and that's how I organize. So that might help you. Big thing I would consider using is a dictionary. So the sources, I don't know who really uses encyclopedias anymore, but trying to think of different ways of saying a thing could be helpful. And that's brainstorming. Okay, that was a lot. I know. We'll get to it. Okay, please take a look at the video, how I can outline my paper. It's about 7 minutes. Actually, I lied. The reading is about 7 minutes. The video itself, I forgot. Let me see how big that is. y'all, that's 13 minutes. I'm not going to put it in this link. I will give you the opportunity to take a look at how to outline my paper without overburdening you with a very long play pause it, because I've done that enough for many of you. Underneath week 1, I want you to see where there's a box where it says this week's readings. Go there and watch the videos there. The reason why I do that is you can actually move around in those videos. You can fast forward, you can rewind, but you can't do that with the play posits. And I don't want to give you an hour's worth of videos when some of these you can always just go back to. So do the readings, take a look at the videos, as you know, just to kind of give yourself a rough idea of what I'm looking for. Many of you have already done it in my classes before. I don't need to overburden you with that. Again, look at how can I outline my paper and how do I find a scholarly journal through Butte's library. When you click on that, I'm going to save you time and energy. Watch the video, but take a look where it says start with JSTOR. Just go to JSTOR, y'all. And then I'm going to give you a little hint. JSTOR already cites your work. I know, I'm not one to suggest copying and pasting, but I also want correct MLA format. So rather than pull your hair out, if you go to the JSTOR, you find an accurate, like a source that is going to validate your points. It's so much easier. At first, it seems a little, what's the word? Burdensome, but don't panic. The best way to use Butte College's data sources is when you put in information, you do research, do one word at a time and try and narrow it down. It takes finesse, a little finessing. You got to kind of do a couple examples, like, say you're trying to figure out the historical context of, what do we got? Hard Times by Charles Dickens. So maybe in the Hard Times, you're trying to find out what the cultural significance of that is. So you could do historical, well, then you would do cultural context, I guess, would be your first search word. Your next word would be Hard Times, and then you could do Dickens, So each time you add in a new word search, it's going to kind of start narrowing it down. It does take time. You do have to kind of like do a little bit of scrolling. But yeah. So, and again, that's when I've done research, sometimes I put in like 3 different words. I'm like, that's not what I want. And you have to move around. Maybe that's not the word you want. Maybe Dickens isn't giving you what you want. Maybe Hard Times isn't giving you what you want. Maybe you have to maneuver what that looks like. Maybe you just have to kind of do a quick Google search and say, okay, when was Hard Times written, or when was it taking place? And maybe that's the information that you got to use for your search. I don't know. It's up to you. It's all a matter of you trying to find what you need for what you're trying to say. That's the goal of research, okay? All right, so again, when you go through lecture, please go through, take a look at all the different videos, the different formatting, how I actually want you to do stuff. Again, I need hanging indentation when you have your works cited page. It's all there, okay? All right, after this, you will have a quizzity-poo, and the quiz is gonna include questions from the syllabus. And it's going to include quizzes from this particular lecture. Don't assume one lecture is going to be similar to the next lecture in the sense of you're like, oh, there'll only be like 3 questions and I don't have to pay attention. But the thing is with the lecture, while the lecture, like the questions at the end might not always be a lot or be incredibly like super thorough. Sometimes they're just easy just to kind of like, hey, look, I did it. I watched. These are the answers. My lecture leans more into the application of the material, especially when we get into reading and lecture responses. So the first 2 weeks, what you're going to have is, you're going to have me in the play plaza. You're going to have me in a play posit with some questions, and then you're going to have a reading and lecture response. And then you're going to see those vocabulary words again, and I'm going to ask you to bold them as I do. And you're going to respond to what I said as well as the lecture itself, okay? So I know this is a big video, and I'm trying to, but I also have 2 parts in which I'm trying to cover. One, what the class will look like, and also what this week is going to cover, okay? All right. So again, we don't have a reading and lecture for this week. This week is just going to be an introduction. Like, please introduce yourself, give me some information, and tell me maybe what you're looking for out of class. I would love to hear that. I don't know. It's a unique class, and I'm very excited to teach it. My hope is that you're in this class not because you have to take it, but that you really are curious about literature. Because we're going to be really diving deep. I'm excited, but that's just me. I get excited about this stuff. But please, if you have any questions, you're going to hear me say this pretty much after every lecture. Please message me. Okay. All right. Go ahead. Have fun with the. Have fun with some of the videos that I'm going to post right after this, and go ahead and take the quiz after, and I'll see you on the other side. If it stops.